Let's go, guys. It's another day back at Cultus. It looks absolutely beautiful out, doesn't it? Nice and sunny, but it is cold. It is currently sitting at 1 degree. So this is gonna be a chilly dive. So I'm out here to test a new product with my scuba setup. This is from Smaco. This is basically a spare air or bailout canister is what I would call it. And this one is 0.7 liters, so it's not a lot of air, but if you're faced with having zero air, that's gonna be a fair bit of air for you. So let me start off by saying I'm not a scuba instructor by any means. I am freedive and scuba certified, but that's about the extent of my knowledge. So the rest of this video is basically gonna be my opinions. They might be right, might be wrong, but like I said, they're my opinions. So don't take this as a teaching thing, my opinion only. So please do your own research before you do anything. So this unit's from Smaco. Basically all it is a miniature scuba tank. Like I said, this is 0.7 liters, so it's not a lot of air, considering that tank is 80 liters. This, I think, has about 2,500 PSI right now. That has 3,000, but again, 0.7, 80. This is not really something that you're going to use as your primary tank. There's some companies that suggest these and up to about 4 or 5 liters as primary snorkeling gear. Take these down and go up to 30-40 feet down. I find a couple issues with those, especially for someone that's untrained on scuba. I don't think you should ever use one of these unless you properly train with scuba, because there's a lot of dangers that can happen that most people won't think about. For example, let's say you have one of these or a similar product down at 60 feet and you run out of air. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to swim to the surface, of course. You want to breathe. I don't blame you. But what a lot of people are going to do, especially those untrained on scuba, you're going to hold your breath. And you're going to take the last bit of air you have and you're going to swim to the surface as fast as you can. And yeah, that sounds like the rational thing to do. But in fact, that's kind of wrong. You're not going to want to hold your breath. That's one of the first rules of scuba diving. You never ever hold your breath. So the problem with that is as you go down, you're going to increase atmospheres of pressure. So to put this in simple terms, if I take a full breath at the surface here, let's say it's 1 times volume. At 60 feet, it's going to be closer to 3 times volume. So 1 normal breath at 60 feet is the same as 3 full breaths here in volume at the surface. So what's going to happen is that breath at 60 feet is the air in your lungs are actually going to expand, and you have a great potential to literally pop your lungs when you get to the surface. Just imagine overfilling a balloon to the point where it just explodes. That can happen inside your lungs. And I probably don't have to say, that'll kill you. All right, after I scared you now, I'm gonna go try this out. But again, this is gonna be my secondary emergency device. Especially if you're not trained on scuba, I would highly recommend never using one of these as your primary device, because that's not really what it's meant for. It's got ice on the side of the lake. Now let's go jump in. I'm gonna start off this dive at 30 feet in depth and test out this Smaco bottle just to see how long it will last and what exactly it'll feel like to run it dry. I was curious how much notice I would get with a bottle this small, and it also gave me a pretty decent chance to practice my buoyancy, as I have to stay in frame for this whole shot. As mentioned earlier, one of the fundamental rules of scuba diving is never hold your breath. However, there's another rule that I'm pretty guilty of breaking myself, which is never dive alone. One of the main reasons for this rule is that if anything were to happen to your air supply, you have a buddy seconds away who can assist you with their spare regulator, also known as an octopus. So ideally, an emergency product such as this is kind of pointless. Here's a simple chart that shows depths and pressures that I spoke about earlier, and as you can see, here at 30 feet, I'm breathing approximately 2 times more air than I would be at the surface. So if I were to drop all the way to approximately 60 feet, I would be breathing about 3 times more air than at the surface. If this bottle lasts 6 minutes on the surface, it will last 3 minutes at 30 feet, but only 2 minutes at 60 feet. However, I don't think this should be used for an extended period of time at depth at all, but I do think this is the ideal size for an emergency. As you can see, I ran it dry here at 3 minutes and 5 seconds, and my last breath, I was only able to get a half breath before I could not suck any more air out. But I'm going to keep talking and let's go do some trash cleaning. At any time while scuba diving, it's best practice to always stop for 3 minutes at a depth between 15 and 20 feet in order to prevent the bends. Decompression sickness, known as the bends, is caused by a rapid decrease in the pressure around you, which happens when you swim to the surface quickly. And because you dive with compressed air, as we just went over, you take in more air, which is comprised of oxygen and nitrogen when you're at depth. The issue is your body uses the oxygen, but the nitrogen is dissolved into your blood, where it remains during your dive. And as you swim back towards the surface after a deep dive, the water pressure around you decreases, which can cause the nitrogen to come out of solution and literally bubble in your veins. I probably don't need to explain, but this can cause some serious issues. The time and depth can increase greatly for deeper dives, but for your standard open water diver, stopping between 15 and 20 feet for 3 minutes is ideal. So if you had to make an emergency ascent, you'd be able to pull out this small Smaco bottle and stay under at 15 feet for the duration of your safety stop. In this demonstration, breathing pretty heavy, I lasted 3 minutes at 30 feet, so this should last most people over 4 minutes at 15 feet. Overall, this dive was pretty uneventful. I didn't really find anything cool until this last thing. Could somebody explain to me what you think this is? Like, obviously it's a hitch, but why would there be a bucket tied to it with a bit of air in it floating about 30 feet under the surface? For the life of me, I could not think of why this would be here and for what purpose, but I dragged it out because it was kind of cool. This thing is pretty heavy, and because it already had a bucket on it, I thought I'd try to be clever and use the bucket as a float bag. However, this did not work at all. So what I ended up doing is I just grabbed it and hopped it slowly over a few minutes, just shallower and shallower until I was able to stand and walk it back to the dock.
That was heavy, that's weird. Bucket. Frog plug. Attached to a big hitch. That was way too heavy and unsafe to swim with. So I tried filling this with air and using it as like an air bag, like a lift bag. But even with this half full of air, it wasn't heavy enough. So as you can see there, I just like bumped along the bottom until I got to the shallows here. Strange. It's a weird item to be in the water here. And tied to a bucket. It doesn't really make any sense to me. It's a really expensive anchor. Anyways, that's about all the air I got, so let's go back to the dock and see the stuff we got out of the water.
It was a good test of the Smaco little spare air device there. At 30 feet, I think I had probably 4 or 5 minutes of air. Obviously we'll check on the camera, I might be a little off on that. But it felt like a good 3-4 minutes of air on that. So let's check out the stuff I found after. As always, we've got some cans. We got a chunk of bimini or something maybe. I'm not too sure. Whatever. This is the thing, I wish I found the whole one. This looks like an old like jug kind of thing. That would have been pretty cool if I found the full one of these. I've never found a full one like this, but that would have been super cool. Big oar, some part of a trailer, and then look at this thing. Okay, this was weird. This was a little full of air floating underwater attached to this. There's about 30 feet of water. This would have made sense if it was right here. This was like 50 feet that way, and like I said, about 30 feet of water. Like, that's a heavy duty hitch. Like, I don't even understand what this would have been for. Like, this is floating like this underwater. I don't get it. Like, maybe somebody's using it for an anchor, but like, that's a really expensive anchor. Let me know what you guys think. It's a weird one. But I think that's a bit big for the Escape, so does anybody need a big hitch receiver? I was probably gonna keep that. Well, that's going in the trash, but yeah, beautiful day. It is really cold though. Like I said, 1 degree, kind of chilly. So keeping this on for now. But yeah, I'll get rid of this trash And yeah, till next time, guys. That was fun.